Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Look here. Stanley has just ran into some guys that he hasn't seen since he was in that juvenile facility when he was 16, right? But they all sit around and they talk and get reacquainted and all of these different things, and then they look at him because they're sharing all their experiences. They're sharing that they've been in and out of prison. He's sharing that he's been in and out of prison. They're sharing all the things about how don't nobody get them, don't nobody understand. They need to get back and all of these different types of things. Their minds are gone. Their minds are gone. It's almost like trying to eat some soup with a fork. You understand what I'm saying? You ain't gonna get nothing. Ain't nothing there. So they're bouncing these bad ideas, these painful memories off of each other, and all they're doing is building each other up to do something silly. To do something silly. So Stanley, he agrees to pull a caper with them. Now let me tell you something. But see, inside of all of their minds, all three of them, inside of all of their minds, they all know that what they're about to do is a bad decision. They all know it. But they feel this sense of desperation, and they feel like that this is going to make everything right. It's going to make everything right. Let me give you an example of what somebody that might be, a situation that might make this make sense to you, okay? It's like, I've never been on any kind of drugs. I smoke weed. You feel me? I drink a little liquor. I don't do anything anymore. You feel what I'm saying? I've been clean for decades now. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to even use the terminology clean, because when I smoked weed, it was just, you know what I'm saying, here and now. And when I did liquor, it was just the here and there. But the point is, I haven't had any drugs in my system. But I got a lot of friends, y'all. I got a lot of friends that back in the day, they smoked their crack. Smoked it. I'm talking about smoked it. And what they all used to tell me is that first time that they hit that crack, they smelled that, they could hear that train, that whistle. And they said from that day forward, every time they smoked, they never got as high as they did when they smoked it that first time, right? Now let me put this in reverse for you. When you're dealing with the criminal world, the criminal element, right? And that fear that develops, that fear that builds up that wall around you, right? Out of the shared traumatization, right? What you're doing in reverse is you're doing everything you can to not feel that pain. And then you're also doing everything you can to make everything around you make sense, knowing that it never will, as long as you continue to go down the path that you're going. It's the same as when you're smoking crack. You're chasing, trying to get that first feeling, knowing you're not going to get it. But over time, you become so addicted that it becomes part of you. And that is what happens when you become mired down in the mud of criminality. You start to think it makes sense. You do things to make it make sense. But an observer from the outside looks at it like, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? And most of the time, the answer you're going to be hearing from somebody that's doing it, they'll say, I don't know. And trust me when I tell you, they don't know. They don't know. I know you sit there and say, well, they planned, plotted, strategized, and did all this and did all that. That lets me know that they got some sense. No, it don't. No, it don't. It should give you further evidence that they have gone across the line. Come on now, how does it make sense to rob somebody at an ATM? How does it make sense to rob somebody at a bank when you got people and cameras everywhere? How does it make sense to shoot somebody in the middle of the street when everybody's watching or nobody's watching? How does it make sense to hurt your wife or to hurt your child? How does it make sense to rape, rob, and murder somebody? It don't make sense. We know it don't make sense. But we say, well, they did it. They knew what they was doing. They understood. Yeah, on some level they do. I'm not making excuses. You got to do something about it. But don't tell me there ain't something wrong with the people in the penitentiary. Something is wrong. I'm in here with them. Something was wrong with me to think that what I wanted to do made sense. Just foolish. Just foolish. It's almost like, you know how, I don't know if any of y'all ever heard about it, like when you got the roots on you, voodoo. You know what I'm saying? People say you can put voodoo on somebody, and then you start chasing behind this woman and doing all this and that, whatever. It's almost like being under a spell. It's almost like being under a spell. So Stanley and them, they go and they pull this caper. Somebody gets killed, y'all. Unfortunately. Somebody gets hurt real bad. And yeah, they got caught. They got caught. And the two people, listen to me now. The two people that convinced Stanley to do this put it all off on him. Woo! Oh man, it's finna get heavy, y'all. They put it all off on him. Because that's what it is, man. No honor among thieves. Liar, liar, pants on fire. That's what that is. So now he's up in court fighting it out. Going through the motions. That's all it is, going through the motions. They say innocent until proven guilty. Innocent until proven guilty. Most people believe if the DA charges, you did it. So you're going up in the courtroom to argue your case to who? To what? For what? Come on now. Going up in there, presenting evidence, trying to say you wasn't here, you weren't there, this, that, and the third. The other side say you was there, and then they get two people that call themselves your friends, say that they met you at a juvenile facility all these eons and years ago. You never had any contact with them since, but then you decided you want to do something. Then when you get up in trial and your lawyer putting on the defense, he said they were really not your friends, but then they say, well, why were you with them? And you ain't got nothing to say. You ain't got nothing to say. Because people out there are sick and tired of being sick and tired of people that wants to rob, rape, and murder. They're tired of it. So what they say is, we're going to send you all up in there and you deal with it, sort it out. Because we ain't finna be playing with you. Go on up in there. And guess what happens? Stanley gets a life sentence. And the other two get 35 and 45 respectively. And they all in the penitentiary together. Now they all in the penitentiary together. They separated, they put them in different prisons because they got this thing, what they call incompatible, put on them because they testified against Stanley. Stanley, now he mad. He's telling everybody in the penitentiary, showing the paperwork, that they told on me. Because that's what happens in here. That's what happens. See, we go and do something stupid, and then we get in here around most stupid, and then we start sharing paperwork trying to say these folks right here, they didn't keep it real. They didn't keep it by the G code. And something needs to happen to them. Well, that ain't going to change nothing. It's not going to bring your victim back. It's only going to add evidence to the fact that you stupid. It ain't going to change nothing. But that's what need to happen, though. You need to get them. They telling it. So? Somebody go hurt them, right? Or kill them, or whatever they want to do to them. It ain't going to bring your victim back. You ain't even thinking about you. You still thinking about yourself. That's what everybody says. You're still thinking about you. What do you think, if they end up hurt, that they're going to change their story? If they end up hurt, is it going to take away from what you did? No. But they're not living up to the G code. What code is you talking about? The code that supports you being a deceiver, a manipulator, a user, somebody with no integrity. Is this the code you talking about you live by? A liar? Is this the code that you talking about? Think about that. That's the code you say. You know when they say you're not about that life? Well, good. Don't be about that life. Don't be a liar, manipulator, deceiver. Don't be none of that. You shouldn't want to be about that life. It's insane. But again, Stanley's caught up because of all that pain that he felt when he was 16 years old. Gets a call from the chaplain. You get a call from the chaplain, it ain't never good, y'all. Most of the time, right? So they call him down to the chaplain. The chaplain tells him, sit down. I got some information I need to share with you, right? So the chaplain sets him down. Then the chaplain gets up and he goes out and he locks the outside door because he don't want anybody to come back there and disturb him about what he's, you know what I'm saying, the information that he's about to drop on Stanley. So he comes back in and he tells Stanley, he said, I got some bad news for you. And Stanley looks at him and his lip starts to quiver and he said, man, your mom passed away last night in her sleep. And the chaplain said, I want to make an arrangement, let you call your pops real quick if you want to, talk to him and check on him and see how he's doing and all of these types of things, right? Stanley looks at him and he fights back the tears. And he tells the chaplain, no, I'm good. So the chaplain looks at him and says, you don't want to call your pops? You don't want to talk to him, check on him, see how he's doing? Stanley looks at him again and he looks down at the ground. He said, no, I'm good. And then Stanley stands up and he turns and he walks out of the chapel. Gets back to the unit. He goes into the cell and he breaks down. He breaks down. Him and his cellie get fighting later on because Stanley don't want to deal with it. He don't want to face it. He's feeling guilty. It's all over him. They take him and his cellie to the hole, but the captain knows. The captain knows this man's mom just passed away because they make sure that the staff knows that so they can watch him. They don't want him to hurt himself or hurt anybody else. There's some compassion in here. So they put him in the hole and they keep checking on him every 15 minutes to make sure he's okay. They're going to let his cellie out after he sees the nurse because they understand what happened. His cellie ain't even mad. He don't have no hard feelings. He understands what happened. So they keep going by and they're checking on Stanley. They're talking to him, asking him how he's doing, but he's getting frustrated. Why y'all keep coming and asking me this? I told you I was all right. So they push the phone over in front of the cell because, they got the phone on the wheels, right? They push the phone over to the cell. They said, you need to call your pops. He called up here. So Stanley picks up the phone. He dials the number. He calls his pops. Pops gets on the phone, and then for the first time in years, he hears his pop's voice, and it sounds old and tired. And his pops tells him, he said, we love you, man. And Stanley tells him, he said, I love y'all too. Now keep in mind, his mom gone, but his dad is still talking in present tense like his mom is still there. He wants Stanley to know that they both loved him and continue to love him. Stanley breaks down. Everything that he had been holding in him for years comes out. He can't hold it anymore. And he tells his daddy that he's sorry. Tells him that he's sorry. Now, the people at the penitentiary, they listening to the phone call because they want to make sure this man ain't going to hurt himself. So when they listen to the phone call, after they get off the phone, they go back, they send a chaplain back there, they send a nurse back there, and they ask him, how you doing? And he tells them he's doing okay, wiping tears away from his face. And they said, well, we're going to check on you for the next couple of days, and then we're going to put you back out. You got a problem going back to your cell? Stanley tells them, no, I'm good, man. And he tells them to tell his cellie that he's sorry. They said, well, he knows, he understands. And for the first time in years, he feels some kind of relief. And now he's starting to miss his mama because she's gone. And he gets out and he promises that he's going to do better. He promises that things are going to be different. He wants to have that relationship back with his pops. And him and his pops are visiting. His pops coming to visit him every weekend because his pops is retired. He ain't got nothing else to do. And he's telling Stanley that he's going to leave the house to him. He's going to do all of these things. They got some money put away that they've been putting up for years for him, that he's going to be fine. They just want him to do better. And his pop said he's going to go talk to a lawyer and try to get something done with his case because, Stanley got a life sentence now. Plus, he still got time on that 15 to do. And the prospects of him going home is slim to none. Slim to none. And 2-3 years into this newfound relationship that he has with his father passes away. His father passes away. And then that's when Stanley loses it. He loses it. He's sitting in the cell and he's talking to his cellie. His cellie has become a real friend to him, a real mentor to him, somebody that he can rely on, even though he's younger than Stanley. And Stanley tells him in a fit of rage and anger and fear. He looks at his cellie and he tells him, I don't know what I'm going to do. I messed my whole life off. Messed my whole life off. And now I got life My parents are gone. I ain't got nobody. I ain't got nobody. He had no contact with his extended family. None at all. The people that he knew in the streets, they don't keep in touch with him. It was all a lie. It was all a lie. Now he's all alone, and he's sharing this with his cellie. But what he doesn't understand is that what he shared with his cellie for the first time in years epitomized growth. Because he had not been able to be vulnerable like that for years. And if not for the relationship that he developed with his father prior to his father passing, I don't think he would have been able to do that. Now, why is this story important? Why is it important? Because Stanley's journey is the journey that a lot of families go through. A lot of them. And those walls get put up, whether it be parents blaming themselves when they're not to blame, or the child blaming the parent when they're not to blame, or the child not being able to let go of the guilt, the shame, and the fear that they feel because of what they did. And then you spend years becoming deluded into thinking that this lifestyle makes sense. What I'm going to tell you is that you can't make it make sense. I don't care who you are or what you do. You can't make it make sense. Can't make it make sense, man. But every day I walk around people that do the exact same thing that I just ran down to y'all that Stanley does. They live in this world where they try to make it make sense because they don't want to experience the pain. But I'm going to tell you something. Without experiencing that pain and walking through that fire, that crucible, you're not going to heal. I'm telling you. So if you got a loved one that's going through that and you want them to get better, you want them to become better human beings, you got to convince them. You got to convince them to let it go. Let the shame and the guilt go. Because once they do that, then that fear, they'll be able to confide in you. And what I'm saying to you, I need you to be an ear to them, because they're going to need somebody that they can pour it all out to. They need to pour it all out. So what Stanley did, he reached out to that woman that he had convinced to bring drugs into him. And he started to share some things with her that he'd never shared with her while they were in this so-called relationship. And he told her about all the things that he had been through and all the pain that he had caused his family. And when she was reading this letter, she broke down and started crying because she started to understand, because she had real feelings for him. And he told her how he was just using and abusing her. And she wrote him back. And she wished him the best. And she forgave him. Now she would never be able to see him again. But he forgave her for the things that they went through. And she forgave him for the things that he did to her. It was bad, but that's what happens. That's what happens when you get caught up in this, y'all. So I beg you don't get caught up in this. Don't get caught up in this. Because when you get caught up in this, you're going to be caught up in a state of delusion. And when you have that shared trauma with somebody, talk to somebody outside of that circle that can help point out some things to you that will help you to see how you can grow from the trauma and not die from it. Because that's going to be the difference in whether you succeed or fail in life, become an abuser or somebody that nurtures life, become a contributor to life, or somebody that takes away. That's going to be the difference. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I'm getting so